the kind of safety combined with just the depth of connection, she's very vulnerable. And I was at the time. And there was a depth of connection that I do not believe I have ever had.
You could practically hear the paper shredder in motion. That's how fast things shifted when Robyn allegedly blocked Meri's long-awaited tell-all. Just days, yes, days before it was supposed to go to print. One insider described the moment as surgical. Emails flying in from Robyn's camp with urgent subject lines like "Stop the press" and "Immediate legal risk." Not a warning, a shutdown. And buried inside that flurry of panic correspondence, a suspicious attachment Meri says she never saw before, something titled Mutual NDA Addendum, Final. The timing was no coincidence, and the wording? Enough to make any seasoned attorney pause. According to one assistant editor close to the publishing team, the document looked like it had been updated just hours before it hit their inbox. The font didn't match Meri's signed contract, and a few key phrases, especially the part about brand preservation rights, were flagged as last-minute additions. And here's where it gets even messier. That attachment came from an email address that allegedly traces back to Robyn's personal media consultant, not any attorney on Meri's legal team. That consultant, according to LinkedIn, specializes in crisis management for reality stars. Think NDAs, image rehab, and leak containment. So what exactly was in that document? According to sources close to the situation, it included language that would retroactively silence Meri on any behind-the-scenes incidents involving her former sister wife, especially if they could negatively impact the family brand. Oh, and one more thing. It included a clause suggesting Meri had already accepted compensation. But here's the kicker.
Robyn and Cody had a very long courtship compared to the rest of us. It is not really appropriate for a married man to have a long courtship. So they actually courted, I think, for almost like a year.
Meri is adamant she never agreed to any such deal. Not verbally, not in writing, not ever. She's even told close friends that she felt set up, like someone had been preparing this ambush for months. And get this, when she tried to trace who sent the PDF, the metadata was wiped clean, a scrubbed file, a redacted digital trail. But there's still one thing Robyn's camp didn't account for. Meri made copies, not just of her book, but of every single legal interaction she's had since the split. Emails, texts, calendar invites, all neatly tucked away. And according to one friend, there's a folder she keeps labeled for when they come for me. So if this was Robyn's legal chess move, she may have just triggered the exact firestorm she was trying to avoid. Because Meri's not just fighting back, she's got receipts. And the next one allegedly came at 11:49 p.m. with the subject line, "Personal, delete after reading." That late-night email changed everything. Tucked between spam and shipping confirmations, Meri spotted the subject line that made her stomach drop. "Personal, delete after reading." It wasn't from Robyn directly, but from someone she hadn't heard from in over a year, an old mutual friend who, according to insiders, had quietly aligned with Robyn's side during the family's unraveling. The message was short, urgent, and chillingly vague. It warned Meri to pause publication immediately and referenced a conversation Robyn allegedly had with Cody just 2 days prior. That conversation, sources say, was heated. Robyn reportedly confronted Cody in their Flagstaff living room with what she called a PR emergency involving Meri's book. According to someone familiar with that night, she was in tears, claiming the memoir would ruin everything they've rebuilt. Rebuilt what? Exactly. That's the million-dollar question. Because from what viewers can tell, the only thing being rebuilt was Robyn's grip on whatever's left of the Brown family name. But that confrontation allegedly led to a late-night call, this time to Meri. Cody, sounding unusually stern, told her he'd strongly advise reconsidering the book deal. Meri, who had spent over a year drafting her chapters, was blindsided. She asked him what changed. He hesitated. Then, in a voice she described to one friend as lawyer-coached, he said, "Things were said in confidence. Let's not make this messy." That call lasted less than 3 minutes.
Thank you.
That's just adorable.
Is that cute?
Good job,
Yeah.
Mom.
And the next day, Meri's publisher got hit with a message from Robyn's team, referencing alleged prior agreements and claiming Meri's book could violate private family accords. No one knew what that meant, not even the publisher's legal team. But the word accords sent up red flags. It sounded vague on purpose, like something designed to scare, not stand up in court. Meanwhile, whispers were spreading that Robyn had held an emergency Zoom call with network lawyers, hinting that Meri had already benefited from the family's brand for long enough. One staffer reportedly called it the clearest attempt to shut her up we've seen yet. And behind the scenes, Robyn wasn't alone. She had allegedly looped in a longtime family associate, someone who on paper ran a consulting business. But sources claim that LLC was used for something very different. Just days before Meri's project was frozen, money moved, emails vanished. And the person at the center of it all, a cousin of Robyn's, with a history of keeping things quiet. This is where the paper trail gets sticky. And according to insiders who've seen fragments of the records, it's also where the cover-up allegedly begins. Around the same time, Meri's book was yanked from the fast track. A $100,000 payment moved through a low-profile LLC registered just outside Flagstaff. The company name? Something innocuous. Mountain Skies Consulting. But when curious fans started digging, it didn't take long for someone to uncover that the listed agent on file shares a last name with Robyn. A cousin, reportedly. One who's never been mentioned on the show but is no stranger to the family, especially when it comes to quiet cleanup jobs. And here's the odd part, that LLC hadn't shown any activity in over a year. Then suddenly, in the span of 48 hours, it receives a six-figure deposit and disperses the funds just as quickly, allegedly labeled as consulting fees. Consulting for what? Exactly. That's the question one anonymous accountant posed when they reviewed the timing of the payout. Because it landed right when Robyn's team began pushing the claim that Meri had already accepted compensation in exchange for limiting what she could say publicly. A legal gray zone if true, but more importantly, a narrative Robyn's side could weaponize to make Meri look like she'd already cashed the check. Only Meri insists she never saw a dime. And if she had, she certainly wouldn't be funneling it through some mystery entity she'd never heard of. Multiple sources claim the payment was made on her behalf, not directly to her, and that the purpose was to create the illusion of a transaction, a paper trail designed to mislead. Because if Robyn's team could point to a payment and say, look, it's settled, they might just scare Meri into submission. That's the power of perception, but perception cuts both ways.
Cody and my money has always been separate, up until Christine and Janelle chose and asked to be out of the family financially. I used to be not so great with money when I was young. I had hard knocks. And then I learned during my divorce really how to budget myself very, very well. You just must have had a different priority of where your money was gonna go than I did. That's all.
When Meri's publisher caught wind of the transaction, they reportedly hit pause. Not because they believed it was legitimate, but because it opened up a legal minefield. Now there was doubt about what Meri had or hadn't agreed to, and whether publishing the memoir would invite a lawsuit. One source inside the editorial team described it as a strategic freeze, just until they could verify what this payment really meant. But Meri wasn't having it. She called the whole thing manufactured, a setup designed to confuse the facts and intimidate her into silence. And according to someone close to her, that's when she pulled out her own receipts, every draft of her book, every email with her editor, every text with the production crew, time-stamped and saved. If Robyn was building a case, Meri was ready to tear it down. But the real turning point came when the family was pulled back together for a so-called brand meeting, one that would leave everyone stunned. By the time that so-called brand meeting was called, the mood was already scorched earth. The location was allegedly Robyn and Cody's living room, neutral territory in theory, but Meri later told a confidante it felt more like enemy ground. Sources say all the wives were invited, but only Christine and Janelle showed up in person. Meri walked in last, clutching a leather folder under her arm. According to someone present, she sat down without saying a word, just stared at Robyn until Robyn finally broke the silence. And what she said, allegedly, was simple: "I think we all know why we're here." From that moment, it was clear this wasn't a family chat. It was a premeditated intervention. Robyn reportedly started the meeting by speaking about brand continuity and public trust, using language that felt more boardroom than Brown family. She claimed she had been approached by producers worried about what Meri's book might do to the franchise, and said more than once that certain memories don't belong in the public sphere. Janelle, according to insiders, rolled her eyes so hard it could have shattered glass. Christine stayed mostly quiet, but allegedly exchanged several side glances with Meri, the kind that speak volumes without saying a word. But the moment things exploded was when Cody piped up. He echoed Robyn's talking points and added that Meri should think hard about the cost of burning bridges. That's when Meri stood up. Not shouting, not trembling, just firm. One insider claims she opened her folder, pulled out a printed copy of her book's introduction, and read the first paragraph out loud. It was raw, emotional, nothing slanderous, just her truth. And when she finished, she looked directly at Robyn and said, "If you're so afraid of what I lived through, maybe you're not as innocent as you claim." The room fell silent. That's when Robyn allegedly turned to Christine and asked, "Don't you agree this could hurt all of us?" Christine didn't answer, but just hours later, fans noticed Christine had liked a cryptic post on social media, a single broken chain emoji, followed by the word "finally." Some say it was coincidence, others saw it as a quiet show of solidarity. Either way, Robyn wasn't taking chances. The next morning, Meri's publishing house received a cease and desist from an Arizona law firm, referencing unauthorized use of private recollections. And attached to that letter A proposed agreement so strict it bordered on blackmail, because buried in the fine print was a clause that would make Meri personally liable for triple damages if any part of the book could be reasonably interpreted as negative. And worst of all, someone had CC'd Cody, under a name Meri didn't recognize. The name in the CC line wasn't familiar to Meri, but when she forwarded the email to her attorney, the response came back almost instantly. That alias belongs to Cody. He wasn't even subtle about it. Just a new email domain, a different spelling of his middle name, and a thin attempt to look like he wasn't involved. But he was, deeply. And if the redacted documents are to be believed, he had been looped into every communication behind the scenes, every clause, every condition, every threat. What arrived that morning wasn't just a cease and desist, it was a full-blown muzzle, a non-disparagement clause that went beyond the standard legalese and straight into the realm of intimidation. Meri, sources say, was floored. According to her team, the document outlined damages so aggressive that even an accidental mention on a podcast or social media could trigger a lawsuit demanding 3 times her original book advance. And the worst part, it claimed that the protections were mutually agreed upon, implying she had already signed away her rights. But Meri hadn't, at least not knowingly. That's where things get murky. Because Robyn's legal team pointed to an earlier agreement Meri had signed years ago during a group negotiation with the network, they claimed it was still enforceable. Meri's attorney disagreed. He argued that the document was specific to the show, not to personal projects, especially not ones undertaken after separation. Yet Robyn's camp clung to one phrase buried deep in the document: no disparaging commentary involving household members, past or present. It was vague, open to interpretation, and dangerously broad. According to one insider, it gave Robyn just enough leverage to spin the situation into a full-blown legal freeze. Meanwhile, Meri was left playing defense. That same day, Meri's editor received a call from a private number. When she picked up, the voice on the other end introduced herself as a family liaison. No title, no company, just a warning. You're about to walk into a mess that could cost you everything. The editor, who's worked with high-profile memoirs before, was rattled. She'd seen scandal, she'd seen risk. But this felt orchestrated, calculated, and completely outside the usual publishing drama. Still, the pressure was mounting.
If that were to happen, if somehow we came in and bought the debt, we would make sure Meri got her share and Robyn and Cody could take what was left, because all the family money helped buy the house that Robyn's in, and they have an extra lot there, so I feel like that's kind of fair. I will always pretty much want what's fair. And I feel like Meri has been treated very badly by Cody for years. And I just want to make sure that that doesn't carry forward into this property division.
Legal counsel at the publishing house advised they couldn't move forward unless Meri could prove she was clear of all prior agreements, and until then, the manuscript would remain frozen in limbo. Meri was devastated, but not broken. She knew the timing of all of this wasn't random. It wasn't about old paperwork or alleged brand damage. It was about fear. Fear of what she might say and how the truth might shift public loyalty. Because despite the silence, despite the signatures, Meri wasn't the only one watching this unfold. And in a quiet corner of the network office, someone had already started whispering to producers. The words were simple, but electric. Robyn's threatening to pull footage. Once whispers turned to threats, the network started to panic. According to a production insider, Robyn allegedly told a senior producer that if Meri's book went public, she'd consider withholding participation in the upcoming season. That may not sound like much, but behind the scenes, it sent shockwaves. Robyn has been the most camera-consistent wife in recent years. Without her, the narrative would collapse. Advertising contracts were already locked, production timelines were airtight, and if Robyn walked off, even temporarily, the ripple effect could be financial ruin. That's when executives reportedly called an emergency meeting. No cameras, no recording devices, just a locked room and a lot of crossed arms. One source present at that meeting claims the words "pause everything" were spoken more than once. But here's the twist. Producers weren't just worried about Robyn. They were afraid of Meri too. Because allegedly, someone in post-production leaked that Meri had been keeping receipts. Real ones. Voicemails, deleted scene transcripts, dated text messages between her and Cody, and some of it, sources claim, contradicted what viewers saw on air. If Meri chose to go nuclear, it wouldn't just embarrass Robyn, it could call into question the network's own editing choices. At that point, ad buyers began asking questions. What exactly was in the book? Why was it being blocked? Had it already been printed? Then, just when things couldn't get messier, a voicemail surfaced. Meri didn't release it, but someone else allegedly did. A clipped message from a network executive timestamped late evening, nervously referencing the nuclear option. It wasn't clear who they were talking about, but the fear in their voice said enough. Robyn had threatened to walk. Meri might be preparing to torch the whole house. And in the middle sat a publisher stuck in a legal freeze, wondering how they got dragged into the most dysfunctional family drama in reality TV history. As word of the legal standoff leaked into fan forums, the public response was immediate and furious. Hashtags like "Let Meri Speak" and "Free the Brown Truth" exploded across social media. At first, Meri stayed quiet, but fans noticed something strange. Pre-order pages for her book, which had quietly gone live weeks earlier, suddenly vanished. Overnight. No explanation, no notice, just wiped. One fan even posted screenshots showing the memoir briefly listed on Amazon under a placeholder title "Unbecoming: A Wife's Exit Memoir," complete with a mock-up cover. But by morning, it was gone. Not out of stock, not delayed, removed entirely. That's when speculation turned to certainty. Someone, somewhere, was pulling strings hard enough to erase digital footprints in real time. Meanwhile, those who had already placed pre-orders began receiving cryptic refund emails stating, "Title no longer available due to publishing schedule changes." But publishing insiders weren't buying that explanation. One editor hinted anonymously that this sort of takedown doesn't happen unless someone is threatening big lawsuits, or worse, threatening to walk. And remember that cousin linked to Robyn's LLC? A newly discovered business filing showed the same entity had just updated its classification from consulting to intellectual property management. Fans immediately connected the dots. Robyn, it seemed, wasn't just trying to stop Meri's story. She might have been trying to own it. That theory gained more traction when a rumor began circulating that Robyn's team had attempted to buy the manuscript outright. One publishing assistant claimed they overheard a phone call in which someone offered Meri's publisher a one-time settlement in exchange for the rights to all unreleased drafts. Whether Meri was aware or not remains unclear, but the offer reportedly was declined. Still, the damage was done. Buzz around the book had now tripled, but so had the fear that fans would never read a word of it. And as all eyes turned back to Meri, hoping she'd go public, she made one tiny move that reignited the fire, changing her profile picture to a single image, a locked journal sitting on a wooden desk. That journal photo said everything without saying a word. No caption, no hashtags, just the soft grain of wood, a worn leather-bound cover, and the unmistakable tension of something waiting to be opened. Fans went wild with theories. Was it the real manuscript? A decoy? A signal that Meri wasn't backing down? Within minutes, the photo was screenshotted, reposted, and dissected like a puzzle. Some even claimed to spot faint initials embossed on the corner, MB, as in Meri Brown. But the real shock came hours later when Meri's cousin, a rarely mentioned but deeply trusted family member, broke her usual silence online. Her post? Just 2 emojis, a locked padlock, and a key. That was it. And suddenly it wasn't just a whisper, it was a warning. Meri still had everything: the drafts, the timelines, the messages, the real story. According to someone close to her, Meri had backed up her files in 3 different locations. One digital, one print, one off-grid. When asked what that meant, the source reportedly smirked and said, "You'd be surprised how good she is at planning for storms." It was the first time Robyn's camp realized they might not be dealing with the same Meri they had underestimated for years. This wasn't just a woman grieving a failed marriage. This was someone who had been documenting quietly, methodically, and waiting for the moment to reclaim her voice. Behind the scenes, publishing insiders say Meri had even considered going independent, cutting out traditional distribution entirely, and launching the book herself. The risks were higher, yes, but so was the control. No middlemen, no legal foot dragging, just her story, her way. And though she hadn't made a final decision, the cousin's cryptic key emoji made one thing clear: if they pushed her too far, she'd open the vault. Robyn, meanwhile, seemed to be preparing a counterstrike. According to 2 separate entertainment outlets, she'd been spotted meeting with a glossy magazine in Las Vegas, escorted by a PR handler known for damage control. Allegedly, a cover story was in the works, one that would spin her version of events first. Robyn's counterplay wasn't subtle, it was strategic. Word leaked fast that she'd been in talks with a major lifestyle magazine known for its celebrity soft-focus exclusives, the kind with glowing cover shoots, heavy photo retouching, and carefully curated pull quotes that make everything seem more misunderstood than messy. According to a tipster at the magazine's digital desk, Robyn's team had pitched a full feature: photos at home with the kids, a sit-down interview, and a long editorial about healing after heartbreak. But what really raised eyebrows was the timing. The pitch landed just 2 days after Meri's journal photo sent social media into a frenzy. One editor allegedly called it an obvious preemptive strike. Sources say the cover line was already drafted. Robyn tells all the truth about love, loyalty, and letting go. Inside the pitch, Robyn would finally address the rumors and reclaim her peace without ever naming Meri directly. It was a classic PR maneuver. Get ahead of the story, own the narrative, make yourself the victim before anyone else can. But here's the catch. Just as the magazine was about to move forward, everything froze. Emails stopped. The editor-in-chief paused layout approvals, and the photo team, who had already secured a stylist and location, was told to stand down. Why? According to one internal source, the magazine got spooked. Another publication, unaffiliated with either Meri or Robyn, was reportedly preparing a piece of its own, one based on anonymous interviews with former production staff. And that story, it didn't paint Robyn in the soft-focus glow she was hoping for. With the possibility of conflicting narratives hitting the press at the same time, Robyn's team allegedly requested a delay until they could review the landscape. But by then, word of the plan's spread had already leaked, and fans were tearing it apart. One viral post read, "If Robyn gets a cover before Meri gets a chapter, we riot." And just like that, the tide shifted. Robyn's polished redemption arc was wobbling, and Meri quietly, steadily was gaining leverage. But then came the teaser that blew it all wide open. A live stream announcement with a title that simply read, "Unedited Truth." It popped up with no warning. A black and white photo of Meri. No smile, no filters, just her staring straight into the camera. And below it, the words, "Unedited Truth." Live stream tomorrow, 7 p.m. Mountain Time. No one knew what to expect. No publisher, no network, just Meri, a camera, and a promise. Within minutes, the countdown was live. Fans flooded the comments. Was she really going to spill everything? Would she read from the manuscript? Drop names? Show proof? Or was this just another tease in a long game of cat and mouse? Behind the scenes, insiders say Robyn's team was scrambling. One source claims legal threats were flying fast, emails warning Meri that going live could violate multiple active contracts. But Meri didn't blink. She doubled down, even reposting a story that said, "When truth is all you've got left, it becomes your weapon." The day of the live stream, tension was sky high. Producers, publicists, even former cast members were watching. One unconfirmed report even suggested Cody had called Meri personally just hours before it started, allegedly begging her not to do something you can't walk back from. But Meri didn't answer. Not this time. At exactly 7 p.m., the live stream window opened and stayed empty. 10 seconds. 20. 30. Then, just as the chat exploded with confusion, it cut. Gone. No explanation. The stream was pulled before Meri ever appeared. Her account went dark. The post was deleted. And the silence? It was deafening. Speculation erupted instantly. Did Robyn's lawyers succeed in getting a last-minute injunction? Was Meri threatened with new legal action? Had she been silenced? Or was this her final chess move? A decoy? According to one friend, Meri wasn't rattled. She knew exactly what she was doing, the source said. And trust me, this isn't over. So what do you think? Did Meri pull back to build more pressure? Or was she truly blocked at the 11th hour? And if Robyn did shut it down, how long can she keep the truth sealed before it spills anyway? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned, because the next video on your screen is waiting, and trust me, you won't want to miss it.